I guess it might not be morning for some of you, but it's definitely morning for me here. I'm watching the sun come up on a beautiful, beautiful day here in Margaree Valley. So before we jumped into this podcast, just going to rhyme off some things off the top of my head, not keep you too long. We have our glamping preseason sale, which is on until the end of March. It's the last week or so of taking advantage of the sale. So if you're looking to come down to Margaree and hang out and go tubing or go fishing or go paddleboarding, or now we've got canoes or pack rafts coming in. If you want to get some of those, head over to the website. You can book. You can add in any extra stuff later on down the road. Other than that, we're getting ready to launch some of our multi-day trips for the year. I've just been juggling a lot of things in the last 2 weeks to try to get things up and running. So we spoke on it in last week's podcast. I had a lot of people DM and reach out about specifically the Margaree River one. That one is going to be a blast. So if you're interested in on it, I'm hoping to have stuff up within the week. So if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully before the end of March, I'll have it up on the website. These are small group trips, and we're going to be ending at the Bite House for a private dinner in Bedeck, which doesn't happen anymore. So we've partnered up with the Bite House on that one. So very excited about these things for the summer. Other than that, there's a deal on for June. So if anybody's coming down in June, you book 2 nights and you get a third for free. So essentially book 3 nights and it discounts it by 1 night. Just really trying to build out the June, because June is always an awesome month here in Margaree. Mostly like I'm on the river a lot fishing in June because it's a lot of free time. But yeah, anyways, I'm not going to keep you too long. This podcast, we sat down with Denis Thibeault, who is a good friend of mine. We met about a year ago. You'll find out how we met, and he joined us on Keji and literally just taught us all the proper paddling techniques, which I had never been taught in my whole life. So we had a great time. We were, had paddled on a river out near Lewisburg a couple hours before, came back to his place, sat down in his kitchen, and got to it. So without further ado, this is Denis Thibeault, Living Life Intently, at Live Life Intense on all social channels. Anyways, peace out. We'll see you next week. Cheers. What's up, everybody? How you doing? We're back with another episode of Living Life Intently. I'm your host, Lee Frazier, and I'm here with Mr.
Jonathan Canary.
Right? I was trying to get him going here, folks. Anyways, it's not working. It's not taking the bait. We are in Sydney.
And I was watching how sexually you pushed that coffee down.
It is a very sexual French press. It is a very sexual French press. Sorry for those of you that are listening that are trying to wonder what we're pressing to make our coffee. Anyways, we're sitting in here in Sydney with Denis Thibeault. Right? Did I say that
that's right. You got it. Denis Thibeault, French Dennis.
Yep, French Dennis. Oh, fuck, I forgot about that.
That's right.
French Dennis. Denis and I met last year. He helped us out with a canoe, which we kind of maybe hurt a little bit.
Destroyed. You wrote it off.
And anyways, since then, he's joined us on a couple trips, and we're in Sydney, and leading up to this not documentary, this podcast, he texts me, and he's like, what do you think about running a river before we do the podcast? So that's what we did. Why don't you tell them who you are and what we just did?
Yeah, so my name's Denis Thibeault. I'm pretty new. I'm from away in Cape Breton, and my girlfriend and I, we moved here last summer with a trailer load of canoes and a sense of adventure. We're in a pretty amazing place.
Right.
So I've been looking at every single blue line on the map, trying to figure out like where we can go paddling in Unama'ki and Cape Breton. And it's all rain dependent. So I looked at the forecast, and it's like, it's supposed to rain on Friday. So I was like, Lee, let's go paddling. Canary, let's go paddling. Insert a bunch of other names out here. Let's go paddling. Did the rain come? No. So we had a little bump of grind today.
It was all
still
right.
A good time.
It was all right.
Yeah.
AJ and I got along fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another guy that joined us was AJ Fraser, who had done a podcast last year. So if you want to scroll back and listen to that, AJ had
Callback.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so. So AJ, if you haven't listened to that podcast, him and a buddy of his, Ben Fury, kayaked around Cape Breton Island 10 years ago. So we talked about, there was called Expedition Cape Breton.
But today, AJ and I were in a canoe. Denis was in a kayak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you were on a Sea Cow paddleboard.
Correctamundo.
Yeah, it was a good run. I really like that country. It's really pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful down that way. It's a little wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, a little bony, but whatever. I mean, that's what you're going to get on a lot of the places here in Cape Breton. And then, like, even the Margaree gets like that in the summertime. So that's kind of what, like, August, September looks like on the majority of, like, the upper river. But
we didn't leave a lot of green paint today. A little bit of green paint. Not a lot, though.
The boats are made for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you, so last year when we met, you had just moved here, and you moved in from Ontario, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and previously you were a guide out in Western Canada.
Yeah,
correct?
so I actually did my degree in ecotourism and outdoor leadership in Calgary at Mount Royal University. And then in that time, I was a whitewater raft guide on the Kananaskis River. So that was a really great time. And I've also lived and worked in the Arctic and New Zealand and kind of all over. So lots of adventures and lots of good people all over the place.
Yeah. And how'd you get started in doing all that stuff? And what was your favorite place of all?
Favorite place of
for like
all.
Adventures?
I'd have to say favorite place of all in the Arctic. There's very, very high tides in some areas. So similar to like Bay of Fundy kind of tides.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you've got these amazing river systems with waterfalls that flow into the ocean, and then the tides rise and the waterfalls go upstream. Like they change from like 20-foot waterfalls to 4-foot rapids going upstream.
Crazy.
And one of those spots is Sylvie Grinnell Falls. Another one is Reversing Falls. So that's in Kimmerut and in Iqaluit. And those are probably my two favorite places. Like you could just sit there for 6 or 12 hours and just watch the water change and the lighting adjust. And it's just beautiful. Like it makes me wish I was an artist.
Cool.
Wow. Crazy. Makes me want to go up there now.
You were an artist of the river, Denis.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, Darcy. You can take a picture.
Hey, what's up? What's up? So, full disclosure, we're in his kitchen with his 3 dogs running around, and his partner Darcy showed up. Hey, what's up? No, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So, but what has since you've been on the island, what's been kind of your favorite thing you've been able to do thus far? But I mean, you haven't been here a year, right?
Not yet.
No.
June, it'll be a year. Yeah. Yep. So we've actually managed to fit quite a bit of adventures in. I think our favorite spot is probably heading out towards Belfry Lake. We did a little canoe trip out there, like in the Bearschwa ponds or whatever. I don't know if that's the word that's used around here for like a pond beside the ocean. And it was cool because we were able to let the dogs loose, and I've never seen my husky so happy. I swear he's like an ocean baby.
Right?
Yeah, he loves it. And he, like, we let him loose and he's happy in other places. Yeah. But by the ocean, he comes back.
No shit,
He's so happy, he doesn't run away. And that's exceptional.
That's cool.
And he likes how stinky does his coat get after salt water though?
You can give him a whiff right now, and that's just normal. He smells pretty bad.
Fair enough. I just always thinking, I'm like, oh man, that coat in the salt water and in the summer and everything else. I'm like, oh buddy, it would just be like humming.
Yeah.
But back to Keji. You and I were in...
We didn't even talk to Keji, did we?
Not yet.
No, you and I were in a canoe together.
We were. You did awesome.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, how did AJ judge you today?
Pretty good.
Okay, because I said to AJ, it's like, hey, AJ, if Canary sucks, it's my fault because I'm the one that taught him.
Yeah. Well, when we went to go there, Lee was like, hey, you want to come on this Keji trip and we do all this media stuff and blah, blah, blah? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, you ever been in a canoe before? I'm like, nope.
Just to preface this isn't like a normal canoe trip. It was like hoofing down some crazy grade 2, grade 3 whitewater with like hardly any water. It was like shuffling the canoes, jumping. It was more like bobsledding in a desert. Like it was just that kind of force and effort that we needed to take to get down this water.
Yeah. So for people listening that are kind of trying to clue, we are talking about a trip we did at Kejimkujik last year. It's just the preface for people that probably aren't aware. And Denis was, when we met last summer, when you moved here last year, graciously lend us a canoe. It was originally supposed to be a different one, a Kevlar one, right? And you're
I was thinking either a Kevlar or a good Royal X canoe. My COVID addiction had become canoe repairs, and so when I met Lee, I said, "Hey, you should borrow a canoe. I'm new to the island. I want to make friends. This is a good way to force friends." And then Lee came over to where I was staying. I was like, "Here, this is a good one." He's like, "Oh no, that looks really nice. I don't want a nice canoe." Okay, well, what about this one? Yeah, that's still too nice.
Where's your shittiest one?
Yeah. That's exactly what he said. It was like, okay, well, you're going like up into the Highlands doing whitewater. You need to take my whitewater boat. It's the one I trust. It's the one I love. And then as soon as I said it's my favorite boat, you could see he was disinterested again. He's like, no. I can't take your favorite boat. I can't take your good boat. I can't take any of those boats.
Give me your shittiest boat.
What's that one? And he points and I'm like, oh, no. That one's not ready.
That's the one we're taking then.
Yeah. It was missing a seat.
Which you custom made a new seat for, by the way.
Yeah, that one we tackled that the day before the trip. So I was like, don't worry about that. I'll put a new seat on it. That's not a problem. Yeah. But yeah, it was more or less because I sort of knew what we were going to get into on that trip, and that one was already. You had repaired the sides, and it was kind of already delaminating a little.
Yeah,
bit,
so
right?
it was delaminating between the. Imagine like foam plastic, all like laminated together, and it was delaminating in a couple spots with some bubbles in it. So I was kind of carving those out and filling them with fancy epoxy and trying to get it all sorted. And it wasn't ready. So it was kind of like, I shouldn't have let that boat out.
I made it. So
yeah, I made it, and nobody got hurt.
No, not really.
Yeah, the important stuff matters.
So, but yeah, I mean that one, and then once we were doing Keji, I just said, why don't you just jump on this one and come with us? So, I'm a big into the fire type of guy. So as you can probably tell, I take people on trips that I'm just like, I know you can do it. It's gonna be it's gonna be
ability versus skill, right?
Yeah,
and so I was really grateful that you were sterning our canoe. Because you're a very good teacher.
Thank you. Yeah.
Your communication skills on the water especially are really, really good. So, for me as
I think it's just I yelled really loud.
No, you were very, very precise, and you taught me all the proper moves, and I really appreciate that. But we had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 8 days through recreating the Tent Dwellers route. So for those of you listening, it's a book that was written 100 years ago, or over 100 years ago, I think now, right? And called the Tent Dwellers, about this fishing trip that goes through Ketchimakujik. It wasn't a national park then, but through Ketchimakujik into the Tobiatic Wilderness area, and then Lake Rosignol and back up. So yeah, that was a really, really fun trip. And most of us were very novice at canoes till this year, and then we did a lot of
Denis schooled us.
Good students though, right? Like,
yeah, but I mean you had obviously had a lot of experience in matter, and you did it. We talked a little bit, but how did you get your start in doing like guiding and doing?
Honestly, the way you say about like just jumping into the fire, that's how I started, right? Like I had a Sevilor inflatable dinghy, and my mom would drop me off at one part of a river. She had no idea that there was dams and weirs and whitewater and log jams and floods and all sorts of shopping carts and hazards that I was paddling through on my own. And I devoured whitewater books and kayaking books and that sort of thing. But it really was a baptism by fire. By all rights, I should have drowned when I was 13.
Yeah, me too. Or falling off a rock face or doing something like that. But
yeah, so I mean, there's this like I'm a huge advocate of taking courses and building skills and all of that, but I don't want to miss adventures for fear of misadventure.
Yeah. I just I have the similar feeling. It's just like when we grew up here, there wasn't. Or maybe I just wasn't aware that there was specific courses for certain things, right? So it wasn't really, we weren't educated on when we used to take canoes and hit the spring freshets, we call them in Marguerite, when the snow was melting in the highlands and it's all white water and massive rapids, and there's banks full of like driftwood, and you get sucked under trees and all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, we would just bomb down that with like no life jackets on even. We would just be like barefoot in a pair of shorts and like bombing through all these rapids. but we had no clue what we were doing, but we just had fun. We didn't die doing it, but I had no clue that there was courses available to do any of this stuff. So that was a part of it, but that's how kind of we learned. So it's very hard for somebody that, grew up doing all that sort of stuff, like hiking and everything, and then to go, well, I need to go get this course now. I know it's part of the process, but
you and AJ met where?
AJ and I met at a Tim Hortons children's camp in Kananaskis, Alberta. We were both staff, so I was a whitewater raft guide, and he had been brought out by his friend who was a horse wrangler, and he was a camp counselor, I guess. Cool. And the funny thing is that we ended up moving in together in Calgary as roommates, housemates, and then we've been friends over 15 years.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then he was your connection back here, was it?
Yeah, totally. So in 2007, I went and guided a winter in Newfoundland. Yep. And I decided, okay, well, I've never been to Nova Scotia, so I'll book my flights home to Alberta through Halifax. So that involved the ferry and the DRL bus, which existed back then, with the whole goal of coming and hanging out and visiting AJ and seeing Cape Breton and the land that he loves. And that was my first time here, and I've been back many times since, and now I'm a resident. Now we live here.
And what was the purpose of moving back to, why did you move? It wasn't for the whitewater here, right? No, I'm guessing not.
No. You know what? There isn't one reason. Darcy and I were exploring the idea of moving out east. So she's always dreamed of living out this way and is a big fan of Celtic and Gaelic culture and travel and all of those things, and adventure, of course. Yep. And I had been out here several times before. I'd visited AJ a bunch of times and gone to Celtic Colors and gone to all sorts of other things and events and weddings and reasons to come back and so on. And so when we were discussing where did we want to start our lives together, where did we want to buy a house and hopefully start a family and that sort of thing, we kind of looked at each other and were like, well, you know what, let's go east. Let's try the East Coast, because why not?
Awesome.
We both love it. Let's go that way. And I kid you not, within 45 minutes of us making that decision, I went back to my house to have coffee, because I loved coffee with my housemate. And AJ had sent me this text of a job posting. And it was the Explore the Brador coordinator position. He was like, dude, I don't know what's going on in your life right now, but this job is you. You need to apply for this. And then I reached out to him. I was like, how did you know? 40 minutes ago, we decided we wanted to move to Cape Breton. How did you know?
Capers know, man.
Yeah.
So tell us about Explore the Brador.
Okay, so Explore the Brador is going into its second year. We're pretty excited about that we got our funding approved. It's a collaboration of a whole bunch of amazing organizations around the Brador Lake, Thibeault, as it's known in Mi'kmaq. And the whole idea is that people around the world know about the Cape Breton Highlands, but it's not until their third visit here or their seventh visit here, and people do come back. Yeah, but it's not until they've come back over and over and over that they realize that the thing they keep driving past is the heart of the island.
That's right.
Right? That's when they have friends on boats that invite them in and they go out, I don't know, fishing, or they go out just sailing, or they go out whatever. The Brador Lakes is a world-class destination that people miss, that people drive right past. It's so world class. It's a United Nations Biosphere Reserve. There's only 2 inland saltwater seas in the world that have that designation, and this is the biggest one.
Wow.
So it is unique in the world. And so a whole bunch of organizations, Collaborative Environmental Planning Initiative, Oceans North, the Biosphere Reserve Association, all 4 counties involved, and a whole bunch of other amazing partners got together, and they were like, you know what? We have a lot of cool things happening here. Let's tell people about them. So that's what they did. That's what Explore the Brador is.
And what sort of stuff were you tasked with kind of showcasing? And I think you were amalgamating a bunch of different things into a calendar last time I talked to you.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So we launched our website and we created a 2-week calendar, the last week of July, first week of August. And we highlighted a whole bunch of things that were already going on. So Theatre Bedeck and Hike Nova Scotia hikes and concerts at the Waikagama Waterfront Center, things like that, right? Yep. And then we were also able to create new partnerships and create other events. So, Wagoba First Nation created the Sky River Welcome, where a bunch of people showed up, and I brought my trailer load of canoes, and we had a little adventure in the Sky River, which is beautiful. It's one of my favorite places. If anybody gets a chance, stop in Wagoba at the Sky River.
Beautiful there.
It's not signed, but it's between the bridge and the Tim Hortons. You can find it.
And what do you guys got going on this year? If you got the second year funding, so that should be kicking up soon, right?
Yeah. So,
is there anything you can tell us, or are you going to keep that kind of under wraps?
We've got a few projects on the go that involve a lot of stakeholders. So some things I'm not going to say because I want to make sure that we do cross our T's and dot our I's and make sure that we're doing everything right. So a big part of Explore the Door is encouraging stewardship of the lake and making sure that we're caring for it.
Yep.
Right. So there's a whole bunch of, like I said, stakeholders. There's DFO, there's Inland Fisheries, there's Unamaki Institute of Natural Resources, there's CBU that has researchers involved on the lakes, there's Ocean Tracking Network. There's a whole bunch of stakeholders of people that really care about the Brador and are doing different projects.
Yep.
So some of the things that I want to do and that the steering committee wants to do, we just need to make sure that we chat with absolutely all the stakeholders to get everyone's input to make sure we're moving with our best foot forward.
Absolutely.
Some things that were big highlights last year, like in Iona, we had a really cool hike. It was more of a beach walk, but every, say, 200 or 300 meters, there was a specialist. Like we had a geologist on site, we had a naturalist on site, we had some knowledge keepers, and that was super cool because you could like walk 200 meters, chat with a geologist, learn about the geology of Cape Breton and Iona and how it's so similar to where the Gales came from in Scotland or whatever the stories are. Yeah. And then walk another 200 meters and learn about like the saltwater roses, which are actually just regular roses. They're just extra awesome because they're saltwater and they're on Cape Breton. No, I didn't know that. So anyways, to answer your question, we're trying to repeat a lot of the same successful activities that we showcased last year and bring in some new and exciting things.
Cool.
Have you ever thought about doing like a big paddle festival?
Yeah. So, something,
or is that one of the ones you can't talk about?
No, that's on the radar. So
you can link it here. Nobody listens to this.
Atlantic Division Canoe and Kayak Nova Scotia. I probably have the acronym wrong, but, they're in charge of like racing kayaks and racing canoes, like the stuff you see in the Olympics. They have great relationships with all of the communities around Cape Breton, and you wouldn't think about it. And they're a great partner. Their goal is butts in boats. I love it. You hang out with them and they're like, I was a little like, I don't know, I'm not a racer. I'm not a marathon canoeer. I'm a get out and have fun. They're like, great, butts in boats. We love it. So Robin from that organization is amazing, and they're great to partner with. And then different organizations in Eskzoni have their little waterfront there, between Goat Island and like where their Eskzoni Fish and Wildlife boat launch is. And there's almost always events going on there as far as like paddleboard or canoes or kayaks or that sort of thing. We also, last year we partnered with Budladeck First Nation. We had a little community paddle there. So it's not planned yet, but I can almost guarantee there's going to be some sort of paddling event, and hopefully it'll be bigger than last year.
Yeah, I think it was like a big overlooked location. Like, most of everything that is done in tourism is related to the Highlands for the most part.
Absolutely.
Cabot Trail and stuff. But there is so much stuff. There's the lake, and then there's, or the lakes, Brador Lakes. And then there's the other, even this side of the island and Louisburg side, and down in, like Arishat, Ilmadam, surfing down there. It's been such a last couple of years have been more of a kind of a push to send people down there. A lot more time and money invested into marketing for that area. But I think there's so much stuff to do. It's just like, you just got to bring it to the forefront and make people aware that that's an option when they're here, rather than just driving the Cabot Trail. And
I know that like our highlight is adventure, but this destination really has something for everybody, right? Like it's got the culture, it's got the food, it's got the music, it's got everything. Yeah. So no matter what your thing is, it's here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, I heard you may be starting a business.
There's rumors of that. Yeah, there's rumors of that. So one thing that I feel would be phenomenal for Cape Breton is the idea of pack rafting. Now, there's no Canadian pack rafting manufacturer. There's a few companies out west that have been gracious enough to chat with me that are launching pack raft companies and designing their own boats. And I'm hoping to do the same out here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that, was brought to my attention. When we started doing the Marguerite, people were like, why don't you just take pack rafts? It's like, I don't even know what the fuck a pack raft is. What's a fucking pack raft? And then since then I've been like, oh yeah. That's a much better tool for that job.
Yeah. Super tough, super light, well-designed inflatable boats.
Yeah, because who likes, portage and canoe for 2 kilometers? Like, fuck.
Well, 2K is not bad, but 2K is not bad, but when you get into 5K,
man, it's God. Like, yeah, why bring it? Just bring so.
No, it's totally made for that. Hiking and floating and river running.
Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out this spring. We're going to, find out how tough they actually are. Cause, we're going to run them. Yeah. Run them hard, baby. That's the plan. What are you on the island as far as, I guess, more or less what I was curious about. Instead of before we get into talking about stuff on the island, it was more or less about, how do you you feel like, or I feel like you get inspired and fired up quickly about paddling adventures. Like,
absolutely.
When it came to this trip that we did today, as soon as there was like a heavy rain in the forecast, you're like, yeah, no, not podcast. We're going out for paddle first. Like, let's go do this first. So what inspires you to go out and constantly be where do you get your ideas from? How do you start planning different routes out, and what inspires you to do so?
I think it's the woohoo factor. It's just when you're on a river and you're having a good time, it's just immediate joy.
Yeah.
Right. And if you choose a medium that is accessible to you, that you can learn your skills and not get into too much trouble, or even if you do get into a little trouble, you can get out of it. It's super, super fun and a great way to experience, the wild, or even just experience water, right? Like, there's definitely inherent hazards, and it does take either luck or skill or a bit of both or experience. But there's something about it that's, just, you feel it in your soul.
You gain experience through, luck helps out with experience, and, that sort of stuff. Experience is only developed by doing X, right? Yeah. It's always about putting yourself beyond your comfort zone and really just pushing it. Like, just trying to see what you can, or what you are capable of. And then that's your new zero, right? You push yourself to a certain point, and then you zero out there, and then you're just going to keep pushing. I mean, it can become a problem. So,
the best,
in certain ways.
The best metaphor I heard for luck versus experience, I think it was in a base jumping documentary or something, one of those Banff Film Fest movies. And it was like, when you're born, you have 2 jars, and one is full and one is empty. And the full one is labeled luck. And every time you do something stupid or fun or whatever, you take something like a handful of sand out of the luck jar and you put it in the experience jar. And eventually, your experience jar gets pretty full, but your luck jar gets pretty low. So you're going to have to start using that brain of yours and making smart decisions. And we all have those moments. And so, today we were on the cat alone, and I was saying, oh, it's grade 1, 2. It's a lot of good fun. But we still have those humbling moments. So 2-3 weeks ago, Darcy and I headed out on the cat alone, and I convinced her to go out, and we didn't have airbags. I didn't wear my dry suit, a little complacent, It was a +10 day, and I was kind of oh no, I don't know. It seems like on the Google Maps, it looks like a swamp. There's a couple of little ripples. We'll be fine. And sure enough, we dumped and we pinned, and we spent an hour trying to Zed drag our boat off these rocks. And so that's another part about rivers, is they are very humbling, but we're okay.
Yeah.
We're we didn't drown. Nothing really bad happened.
Yeah.
We're okay. But I shouldn't have been relying on my luck jar that day.
That's right. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
It is a good one.
That, I think.
Yeah. I won't be able to articulate it the same way. I'll fuck it up every time. We'll move forward. I'll try to say that, and they'll be like, Lee, just shut up.
Someone will be like, what are you talking about? We'll be like, you're going to have to go listen to the podcast.
And I wish I could tell you what documentary that was from, because it was brilliant. And I'm pretty sure it was about base jumpers. Like, I don't even imagine doing anything that extreme, but I have admiration for people that push themselves to that level.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to experience it, but it wouldn't be something that kind of drives me. It's like, for me, it's thinking up something, like using creativity. It's like having that little boyish feeling, or a little boy that's inside of you that's like, ooh, what if we did this? And then you think about it and you're like, no, what if we did this plus this? Oh, well, what's that adventure like? And then, there was a quote that I think we referenced it before. Alex post from the trip, to talking about trips and adventures. I think I mentioned it last week.
Yeah.
Alec was another guy, just made a comment on a post, and it said something like, there's a very clear distinction between a trip and an adventure, right? A trip, it's like plan, execute, point A to point B, and an adventure is when you have to deal with, overcome obstacles along the way, right? That sort of stuff. So that's that drives me. It's like the creativity of, like, seeing the weather come up and the rain, and it's like, oh, what if that? I know I bombed that, but that's going to be so much more fun with like an extra 20 mils of rain, right? And then just hitting it, and you're like, fuck yeah. Like, that's what drives me on this island. Specifically on this island, because I grew up on it, like the Margaree River. It's like, how many ways can you squeeze an adventure out of it? That's kind of how I look at it. Like, how can you one up yourself every time to create a different experience?
Now, let me ask you, Denis.
Go ahead.
I will.
Good.
I will
Do it.
Go ahead.
Calm down.
Have you done any guiding since you've been here? Are you doing any rentals of your gear? Like, I mean, you got a lot of canoes.
I do have a lot of canoes.
I'm surprised nobody stole them yet.
They're all at AJ's driveway.
Yeah, well, those ones are locked up. The other ones are tucked away, hidden in the backyard. So I've actually been teaching with the Outdoor Council of Canada in partnership with Hike Nova Scotia. So I've taught a few mapping compass courses, and I just recently taught a winter field leader module out in Inverness. And then in a few weeks, I've got a field leader module I'm teaching in Camp. And then just through Explore the Bador and some of the local communities, I've kind of done like little like group rentals of our canoes. We launched a canoe rental company last summer, and we were like almost ready. And then I think our website was live for like 2 days, and we had a whole bunch of phone calls, and then it was like, oh no, I've been deferring insurance. I've been like saying like, yeah, let's rent canoes. Do you have liability insurance? Okay, cool. This is perfect. Doing all the paperwork through municipalities and organizations and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I had to go back and I had to contact people. I said, I'm so grateful that you reached out to us, but this is the situation. We've been renting canoes, deferring liability insurance through organizations. We're actually not ready to do individual rentals this summer. And so sorry, could you please accept a gift certificate for next summer? So right now I'm actually in conversations with insurance providers for rentals, and then also for the retail sales. So pack rafts and canoes and
cool,
and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a misadventure, but I'm glad we jumped into it.
Yeah.
And the few people that were hoping to rent canoes, they were super understanding. We're very, very grateful for them.
Awesome. Cool. I'm having a time. What's the one-eyed dog's name?
That's Willow. She's as old as the hills. She's deaf and blind.
Willow. I think you got to get Willow on a t-shirt.
Oh my God, we totally should.
Yeah, little tongue sticking out, one eye.
Yeah, she's missing all her teeth.
Little pirate. Yeah. Yeah, so that's great. So maybe we'll include some information in the show notes or something like that on how people can get into touch. And
sure.
And you guys basing it all out of Sydney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We can satellite at my place, and you guys can run it all from that way. I don't have to deal
That's
with
an option.
Fuck it.
Makes it easy for me.
Yeah. No, I'm just excited that there's more people coming to this island and meeting people like you along the way, because it's we grew up here just with a close-knit group of friends and didn't really know, many other people that were interested in doing a lot of this stuff. And now, a lot of my friends all have families, and whenever I do the call out, that's why Canary's on the trips, even pushing him through the ropes. so far. But yeah, a lot of my friends are all either gone out west, families, full-time positions, jobs, that sort of stuff. So it's very hard for people to be able to leave and go on a weekend or like 4 or 5 day trip. So, yeah, that's why we have a pretty good crew now of people that come out on trips, but, and it's always fun seeing people, pushing people beyond what they thought was possible.
Yeah.
That's kind of the magic of it, right? Like it's good to have fun for yourself. And you were talking about like, how do you get more new experiences out of the Marguerite River? And that's something that, somebody told me a long time ago is like, if it's the same trip that you're doing over and over and over again, it's not, because it's a different time. You're a different person, and the people you're with, it could be their first time. So that beauty of like seeing the same thing through fresh eyes is really cool.
Yeah. There was a quote that, when we were filming, a couple years ago, we were filming this documentary. And when we were sitting down interviewing, Jimmy Peterson, who's a fly fishing guide in Shetty Camp, he was talking about there's a part, and I'm pretty sure I included it in the film. And I edited that piece, so it's like kind of burned into my head because I listened to it probably 800 times. But he's talking about how, he's fished and fly fished since he was a little kid. And so he's caught X amount of fish. So that experience of catching a fish is not as exciting as it once was. But through teaching people and taking them and having them experience catching, teaching them how to cast, them catching a fish for the first time, he gets to experience that experience through them. And he's like, that's what I love doing about it, because I get to take people and show them a skill. They catch a fish. I experience what it felt like the first time through the excitement of somebody else doing it. And it's kind of like the same deal with, since the last couple of years, guiding people and taking people on these trips. And a lot of people that we took last year on the Marguerite, were people that lived close by, but had never explored that river at all. And just seeing kind of like their experience and them having fun doing it and talking to them about it, that was very rewarding on my end. And then going to Keji with all you guys, none of us had been there.
Yeah.
And everybody exploring Keji for the first time. Doing that trip. And I remember, Ashley Moffat, who was one of the parks.
Nope. Not allowed to say that.
Oh, she wasn't one. Ash, who came along with us,
Ash, we had Ash 1 and Ash 2.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
it's, who knows which one it was.
Yeah.
Anyways, she was saying that there was people at the parks or at people around Keji that were involved with like doing a lot of backcountry, and they're like, what route are you guys doing? tent dwellers? And you're planning to do what? No, you can't do that.
No, that'll take you 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, well,
even
we only have 6 days, so.
Oh, we made it work.
Dude, we had, I remember running. So when you leave Keji, we were going down the Shelburne, and everybody's like, Indian Falls, Indian Falls, Indian Falls. So when I'm looking at a map and I see a falls, I'm like, shit, I'm thinking a Cape Breton Falls. Like, we're going to hit like Egypt Falls on this river. Like, that's what we're going to hit. And I remember being in the canoe, and I was with Alec, and I was like, Alec, look up on your watch, see if we're getting close. And he's like, yeah, summer's coming up. It's summer's coming up. And then we like run a couple sets of rapids, and he goes, I think we just ran the falls. And I was like, really? And then we looked on GPS, and sure enough, we ran the falls. I'm like, that's the falls?
And like, I don't know if they do that to deter people from running the rapid, or if it's just like it maybe was once a feature. And
I think it's also a matter of perspective. Like, we had, modern gear and plastic boats and all that wonderful stuff, not birch bark boats.
That's right.
On a fishing expedition with bags of flour as our food.
That is true.
Right. That's
that is
right.
true. That is true. But the other one was, what was it, Loon Lake Falls? Yeah, that's the one you were running the rapids on.
Oh, yeah, when I was trying to
solo it,
figure out how to pull the canoe upstream. That is so much harder than it looks.
Yeah. But no, that was a fun rip, real fun rip.
Yeah.
But as far as being on this island, what are some things, I guess, that you're excited about doing or exploring? Like, is there anything that stands out in your mind that you were like, this is what I want to do first, like, or that's something that I'm trying to get to do, whatever. I'm just talk over me, please.
So one thing that we've kind of been getting big into is fat biking. And the cool thing about fat bikes is they're low gear, big wide tires. And so it's not that like mountain bike, super fast fun kind of venture. It's the I can go anywhere kind of idea. Yep. You know, whether it's sandy beaches or snowy pack trails or snowmobile trails or that sort of thing. And I hear about adventures like your guys' adventure, you know, across the top of the Highlands, widthwise.
Yep.
Yeah, widthwise, yeah.
And then, so I kind of wonder, like, well, there's all those snowmobile trails. What if I just like fat bike from Bedeck to the top? Like crossing the Highlands lengthwise.
Yeah.
Could.
You could do it.
I don't know.
100% could do it. Yeah. I mean, you might hit some, I don't know how, so I've never ridden a fat bike, so I don't really know what the terrain you can get through. I mean, most of it you'd be able to do if you got back, because they groom most of it, right? So,
okay, so that'd be nice.
Like Fielding Road, heading over to Hunter's Mountain and stuff, a lot of that is groomed. And then once you get past, I think once you hit up towards like
past the flowage.
Shit, yeah, summer's up there, then when it turns off, then then it's not groomed. So that's when you'd have to be going when there's some fresh trails. Not when there's drifts, like 6 foot high drifts, some powder. You'd be working a little hard to get through those.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like,
I mean, you can do it. I mean, anything can be done, really.
It'd be more like hike a bike or hoof a bike once you got into the park.
Yeah. Who did Wreck Cove? Oh, Dave Green did Wreck Cove to Shetty Camp the other year, skied it. Yeah, but that's not fat bike. But yeah, but he pretty much ran all snowmobile trails the whole way.
Yeah.
So he said it was a pretty well, I mean, that whole route, Wreck Cove is the main vein down to Fielding Road and stuff. So you'd get a lot of snowmobiles that way. But yeah, you definitely could do it. There was a guy that was, when we left on the Highlands trip, they had messaged me to get a shuttle sorted from Bedeck to Meat Cove. And they were leaving on an 8-day trip from Meat Cove to Bedeck.
Oh, wow. So that's
ski trip.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So they were going like Meat Cove. I think they're going down and then through, like up through Pulch Cove and then down across the park and then down to Bedeck. But I don't think they had a stove malfunction. The stove broke and then they called it quits. Something like that.
You got any river sections you're excited about?
I've been doing a lot of back road driving over the last 8 or 9 months we've been here, and Grand River Falls.
Yep. Looks
runnable. You know, maybe with the right people and the right equipment and safety lined up and right flow, it looks runnable.
Is it like a proper falls or is it?
It's like a series of cascades beside a fish ladder, and it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Springtime. Let's go. When it floods, rock and roll, baby.
You know, I've heard some people mention that they've always wanted to run Indian Brook.
Okay.
And that's the Grand Falls is on that, or Indian Brook Falls is on that.
That's the one where you kind of have to swim to get into.
You have to swim to get up into it. Yeah. There is a trail to get up there, but the fun way is to like take a trail and then you swim a section of the river to get up to the waterfall. And it's so beautiful, but you wouldn't be able to run a canoe over it.
Yeah.
But
that's, so there's like Tarbert Vale, the Bearshaw River, and then Indian Brook. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to take a look at that, because I know the Bearshaw River, I see all the boulders and the like elevation drop, and that kind of makes me look and wonder.
So you could raft Indian Brook Falls.
Yeah, well,
for sure.
Yeah, well, like Indian Brook starts pretty much like when you're going up to, it's in the middle of the Highlands, right? They all feed pretty much from the same area.
Yeah.
But that one, there was enough when we were in the fall. There was enough water when you pass over it. So when you go Fielding Road towards the flowage, it's you kind of drive over it. But yeah, you can definitely go from way up in the Highlands all the way down. It'll take some. Though I would imagine you'd probably go with a lot of ropes and rappelling gear and stuff, but you'd be able to. It'd be a fun trip. I mean, you'd be able to go down. Which one's the Bearshaw?
So there's the Tarbert Vale Road, and then where it kind of comes back a little tighter to the highway. That's the Bearshaw River.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like not far from the cold spot.
Yeah, that's a cool spot, eh?
Yeah,
right. The cold spot. Oh, the little kind of dip cold in Tarbert.
Well, the cold spot is. I actually.
The blog post. Yeah.
Yeah, in one of those blog posts I submitted to you.
Yeah.
We talk about the cold spot. It was used it's a small little cave that was used as a refrigerator up until the 60s by a local family. It's if you go there in May or June, July and August, it's still really cold, but there's no ice in it. But even in June, there is ice in this little cave. It's pretty cool.
Interesting.
I was lucky enough to go to school with some people from Thibeault. So in Calgary, I went to school with one crimp, and then she introduced me to her family, and so that was kind of my inside scoop on some local information, like the cold spot and the Bereshaw River.
There's a lot of people pan the Bereshaw.
Oh,
Still, yep. There was a few gold. There's one gold deposit up there that was found, and then it collapsed and was never recovered.
Interesting. I wonder how this past year's storms would have stirred anything up.
I'm not sure, but there are a lot of people that still go up there panning. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. But
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, Indian Brook, let's let's fucking do that one.
Let's put that on the front burner.
That's on the list, baby. Yeah, well, let's go. We're going to get these pack rafts in.
Yeah.
And then we'll hit up the Highlands in the spring when it's flowing and hit it up. But that's us pretty much for time for now. We got to move and record another one. But yeah, we're where can people find you? What can people do to get a hold of you for rentals and all that sort of stuff? Or are you even promoting that right now? We might as well plug it.
Not exactly promoting, but when we do, the canoe company is called Birch Canoe Works because Darcy's last name is Birch, so It works out wonderfully. And our pack raft company is going to be called Rado Rafts. That's the first time I will have said that publicly.
Rado Rafts. Ooh. Are you going to have like 80s neon retro
Oh my
colors?
God, we should.
Oh, buddy, let's rock and roll.
Hot pink and electric purple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like those old body glove suits with a hand on them.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in, Denis.
You came here. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for jumping on with us, man.
Touche. Okay, man.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. And we'll see you next week. Yep. We'll see you.
Yep.
Okay, fuck. Okay, well, sorry. I don't know. That was the most awkward sound off ever. Okay, peace out, folks. See you next week.